We love Marianne. We love Marianne Williamson on this channel. If you've been around since the inception, when the primary was still going on, you would know that she is who I voted for in the primary. She's the first Democrat I ever voted for in my life, and a lot of her politics reflect mine. I mean, especially domestically, it's almost 1-to-1. I don't know anything we even disagree on domestically, but we do disagree on some stuff abroad. But she was never really given a fair shake by the Democratic Party, wasn't given a fair shake in 2020 as well, something that I thought was a grave mistake, and it proved to be a grave mistake, but is now she's come and decided, I'm not going to leave the party that essentially left me, but I'm going to try and change that exact culture by throwing her hat in for the bid to be the next DNC chair, which I think she's the perfect pick for. So let's see what she has to say, and then we can break down what it means and why I think she's right.
If we're going to actually create a political phenomenon that can match MAGA, remember, President-elect Trump has created this collective adrenaline rush with a profound emotional and psychological hold on masses of American people. Not only has he drawn masses to him, he has drawn masses away from us. We have a very frayed bond of affection with millions of Americans, particularly working people in the United States. We have to address the problem on that level, on the level of the heart, on the level of the mind. People aren't feeling about Democrats anymore, at least not enough of them to make for the kind of victory that we need in 26 and 28.
This is spot on, and it's something a lot of people on the left, I think, have a hard time admitting about our side. Since Citizens United and corporate money has came into politics, it's changed both parties for the worse. A lot of people it's easy to look at Republicans and see how they've always been beholden to private interests and how Citizens United only exacerbated that and enabled them to do it worse. But it also allowed Democrats to get away with it too. And for Democrats, I believe it even had more of a negative effect, as there were at least these expectations of them to never be beholden to these kinds of things like Republicans. They were supposed to be the opposition party to that, but corruption and capitalism go hand in hand. I think anyone who's anti-capitalism could understand that at least. And this has caused Democrats to lose constituency as the working class voters feel duped when they say the establishment comes together to ensure Hillary beats Bernie, even though Bernie was running so much more on a worker-first populist platform, and only for Hillary to then gift us Trump, who's like the most corporate politician we've ever had. The same happened in 2020, Biden over Bernie that time, in 2024, suppressing Marianne, suppressing other voices who wanted to rise in a Democratic primary, though, again, and I do want to stress this for any MAGA who's going to watch this video and try to run to the comments and be like, oh, that's not very democratic of the Democrats. It's the norm in politics. The DNC and the RNC are private companies. They're not actually part of the government. Nothing they do is inherently democratic or anti-democratic because they're not government institutions. They're businesses who can run primaries however they want. Republicans run their primaries like this too. They suppressed those running in the 2020 Republican primary. I would bet no MAGA can name any Republican who ran in 2020 because guess what? They were all suppressed. Ask Joe Walsh about it. So it's a bad thing. But don't let MAGA pretend this is something unique to Democrats and how they're really anti-democratic because they're the ones doing it. It's just how politics in this country work. It's one of the more anti-democratic institutions within our democratic established liberal democracy that we've established, right? But Marianne truly does represent turning the page from this back to the FDR New Deal style branding for Democrats and a platform that truly puts workers above corporate interests.
If you look at the list now for DNC chair, it's comprised now of 5 people and you, a woman, a person of color, and 4 white men. So given how Democrats lost the Hispanics, lost women, lost union voters, the working class, does this slate of leaders, I mean, we know where you stand, but does this slate of leaders really look like what the party needs right now?
I think it's about the consciousness of a leader. It's about, listen, there is some ethical corruption within the way the Democratic National Committee was working during 2024 election. I know because I was there. One of the people who is a leading contender was his idea of making the Democrats win was to kick anyone off the ballot that he didn't feel should be there. That should not be the role of a state party leader, and it should not be the role of the federal party. The Democratic Party should never have been thinking that they had the right to choose Joe Biden.
She's talking about Ben Wickler here, one of the candidates for DNC chair, who very much so represents everything the Democrats need to move on from, including, putting voices off of the ballots to just anoint Biden, essentially. Now, I will say you can see from both sides of the diversification argument here. The host kind of represents the side or the kind of how you don't do it. It's performative in nature, and it's more so what MAGA does, right? Like, oh, we need to appeal to a group of people. Let's use someone from that group to do it. Trump does this with like the Tim Scotts, the Marco Rubio, or to combat his misogyny by appointing a woman to his cabinet. For Democrats, it's more how Marianne said, right? The consciousness of a leader is what matters. And it's understanding that in diversifying the options, you're getting a wider range of diversification of consciousness, thus more depth in your selection, right? Oh, and I would say that bears out. When you look at the candidates running for the DNC chair, the two most conscious and ready to lead candidates are those who are diversified, right? It's Nate Snyder, a Latino man, and Marianne, a female. And most of the others fall much lower on the totem pole: qualifications, experience, and outlook, any of those things.
I want to help the American people reconnect with the significance, the practical significance of politics to their daily lives. Too many Americans don't know what Democrats are trying to do for them in the House or the Senate. They don't know what's happening in their state houses. And the Republicans actually have been better at keeping their base informed about what they want and about what they're doing. The Democrats have acted like, just elect us and then trust us. People don't even know. And that's why too many Americans don't feel like the Democratic Party has their back. I want to talk to people. I want to listen to people.
I agree with everything she said here, except for like the semantics of Republicans keep their voters informed. I think, and I would say she would probably like agree with this is what she meant if she like expanded on it, that they are better at constantly feeding their voters information to digest and like stoke their emotions and keep them motivated and involved. But it's almost always misinformation and lies. I think that is important to stress, like the Springfield immigrant story or the Trump shooters were Democrats or whatever story it may be that works in that time and whatever framing they can give it. But she's also spot on when she says the Democrats have felt like they aren't trying to win voters anymore, like they feel obligated to them, which is a problem. It's almost like, trust me, like she said, this election felt like they were saying Trump is bad, so put us in instead and just trust whatever we do. And to be clear, that was enough for me. That should have been enough for all of us, but clearly it wasn't for the masses, which is why the rebrand needs to come. The education of what government does for you and how Democrats are the only party trying to defend that, right? Social Security, Medicare, public education, public mail service, expanding healthcare, raising the minimum wage, infrastructure projects, while the other party wants to take from all of these so they can afford tax cuts that will give their billionaire donors an extra $100,000 a year to play with. Maybe donated to their politicians, while you'll be without public education or healthcare. There'll be more holes in your roads that never get fixed, no Social Security to fall back on when you retire, paying $200 to get packages shipped to you in rural areas, working for $5.25 an hour. But I mean, hey, at least those tax cuts will get you like an extra $200 a year. That's one package delivered free.